Latinas who are doing great work in tech that may not be seen otherwise. And I mean, I think that this is kind of a good way for us to connect and just to be a resource for each other here. And that helps dividends when you think about policy and being here in DC specifically.
Great, and you know, that is a great segue to my next question. So we're talking about the DC ecosystem, which is, you know, different from San Francisco and these other tech hubs in that there is this policy focus and there's this myriad of sectors and organizations that exist in the same ecosystem. So Sonia brings a lot of experience in the Washington, D.C. area, from her current position at Facebook to her past work at the United Nations and Acción Internacional. Sonia, could you tell us the value that you think and hope this chapter will bring to the D.C. area in terms of mentoring, as Jessica was mentioning, building up this community, this network, and also fostering that cross-sector collaboration?
I was saying that I was born and raised in Peru, and I recently realized that it's okay to have an accent. It's okay to feel comfortable saying I'm Latina. It's okay to feel comfortable saying I have this culture. And every time I go to a place, I say like I'm Peruvian. It's not working. Okay, make a note. Okay. So just keep it really close to your mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Now.
Okay, perfect. So going to your question, I've been in the DC area for quite a bit, but my work has been all the time international development. My background is like I'm a software engineer, but by lack or pathway, I ended up working in policy now. I can say that that background as a software engineer has helped me a lot to do the work and to connect the dots between technology and policy. And I see this chapter, Latinas in DC, as an opportunity to identify, to connect, and to be able to help Latinas. I received that help, and the least I can do is to pay back the same. So when someone asked me, what could you take you to find a new job or a new opportunity, I said many coffees and many meetings. Because no one is going to be there unless you look for the opportunity. And when this opportunity came through Brenda, basically I was excited. This is not just like a Latinas at work in Facebook. We have Latinas at Facebook, which is a great opportunity. I'm part of that, but it's within a company. Latinas in tech allows you to cross border, to find this niche market, and also to be able to help different Latinas in this community. Whatever your interest is, I think we are in different levels of skills, of opportunities, and we'll all the time be able to provide you with different insights.
Perfect, thank you so much. I'm gonna try to make this guy work. So I love what you were saying about mentoring, about how the I love what you were saying about mentoring and the importance of the coffees. I had that same experience when I moved to Washington, D.C. I got my job now by basically emailing everybody I could possibly get a hold of until somebody gave me a job. So, Zachary, I want to ask you, kind of following that thread, you kind of wear two hats, three now, with the Latinas in Tech chapter beginning. So as through your work at Must Talent HR, which is focused on identifying, sourcing, and empowering human capital, as well as your work at Meta Collab, which you are the founder of, how can this mentorship and Latinas in Tech's overall priorities in DC generate positive social outcomes for the community and build up the Latina talent that we have in the city?
So we'll take turns. So right now I'm currently, I guess, three hats. I'll talk briefly about Net the Collab. That's my company. We're a digital first advocacy organization focused exclusively on social justice. So finding technological and digital solutions for advocacy for social justice causes, movements, and organizations. I like to say that my work at Mass Talent HR is also social justice focused. It's a Latina-owned and operated human resources firm. That's like unheard of. And I'm very blessed to be their general counsel and senior consultant. And what we really focus on is empowering Latinos, specifically Latinas, on how to get to the C-suite, how to break through in executive coaching, and how can we find more qualified Latinas to place at that level. And so for me, all of that is connected to social change. If we're not at the table, of course, like we've all been saying, right, like there's no way we can affect change. But also, and it's interesting, my mom is, she's been in corporate world for forever. And when I was in law school, she was like, you gotta go be a corporate lawyer. That's where the money's at. That's where you can make change. And I was like a bleeding heart liberal, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna sell out. There's no way. And what I've really realized over the years is that we're both right. You really need people at that level. You need Latinas at that level to be able to make change within corporations, within companies, within the private sector. You also need people on the public interest side driving that pressure and making changes in other spaces. And so for me, when I moved to DC, when I kind of was trying to figure out my path and where I wanted to go, I was very fortunate to have a few mentors, and not only mentors, but sponsors. And I don't know if Brenda, if you can hear me on the live stream, but one of them was you, so thank you.
I second that.
Been a mentor to many of us.
And so my perspective is how we create more change, how we create more positive change here in DC through Latinas in Tech, is we start to mentor and sponsor each other more. A lot of times we're walking in, we're the only person in the room. When I started in DC, I was a Latino lawyer in tech policy. Less than 2% of American lawyers are Latina. You just heard that less than 1% of the tech industry is Latina. So if you overlap those together, I'm not good at math, but I'm guessing it's really, really, really low. So I was for sure the only person who looked like me. And I was fortunate to have those mentors and those sponsorships. And I think this organization can create spaces where not only we can affect change, but we can disagree with each other. We can work through these like really tough societal problems and traumas that we're going through to help each other out and to create a better future for our community.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I would like to actually turn it back over to Asidia. So, piggybacking off some of what you were saying about how that sponsorship, I like that word. So it's not just giving advice, but it's like kind of endorsing you, saying that you can succeed and helping you tap into the resources available. So from the organizational change perspective, how do you think that leaders at an institution can give Latinas a leg up? What concrete things can they do to sponsor people in their workforce and then also talent that they want to bring in?
Yeah, so that's very interesting. So today, I'm very, very, very lucky that throughout my entire career, even when I was in grade school, I've always had sponsors along the way. They've seen something that makes them go out of their way and provide either opportunities, guidance, and that really is key. That that guidance, provide the opportunities. Sometimes you need additional support. So I come from humble beginnings and didn't really know what college was, didn't know what engineering was, and there was a math professor that said, hey, there's this math program that's made for diverse minorities that for STEM, and I think you'd be really, really good at it. And so that's from grade school, but that trend has continued throughout my whole life. Just today, I reached out to my boss who's not Latina, and I reached out and I was like, I'm starting to reach the high level at where I'm at, and so what's next? And so
She's sponsoring me in terms of getting coaching to see what it is that what is the next step for me. And so having those relationships with either, if it's not directly your boss, but potentially other leaders within the organization, if you are a leader, identifying those potential, seeing that there are Latinas who are interested in wanting to do more, and maybe there's some gaps in providing opportunities to close some of those gaps, providing that training, sponsorship, mentorship, guidance programs like this, attending Latinas in Tech meetings, not to promote ourselves more, but so really that's just really key, and not just women. I mean, there's been men. I've had a couple bosses that were men, and if you're a man in the room and are in a position that you can make choices and select people to either go to a leadership training, different opportunities, that key role in that project that'll make that person stand out, give it to a Latina. We need those opportunities. We are not in those positions, and it's important that we get those opportunities.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, I just so in one of my roles when I was on the Capitol Hill, I was part of the hiring process, and one of the things I distinctly will always remember is, we had a lot of organizations on Capitol Hill. There's a networking, resume workshops and things like that, and yet time after time after time again, I heard people say, we just don't have a good pool of applicants. Like, we don't have people with the talent, the specific accolades we need on a resume. And I think a big part of the solution is having diverse leaders at the top. But I want to, and in this Latinas in Tech, which I think we can help achieve, is cut out any excuse that they have. So when they're telling me, I just need different resumes, I can automatically, say, well, here's 5. Here are 5 well-qualified Latinas who, maybe they don't have the 4, unpaid internships because they had to work through college, but that doesn't mean they don't have the skill sets needed to be on Capitol Hill or to learn some of the tech policy that, we're all consumers, and I think, shout out to millennials who are like, know what we're doing, and some technology policy. So, just wanted to add that.
Great, and I did have another question for you, just coming from the public sector side. So, resources in the public sector can sometimes be more limited when it comes to coaching, training, continuing education, those things that we jump at the opportunity when they become available, but they're rare, and sometimes growth is a little bit less linear, a little bit slower coming than in the private sector. So from your experience, and it can be a personal experience or maybe, anecdotally, especially with your experience in the hiring process, what are ways that Latinas in technology from the public sector side can seize those opportunities and try to break those barriers?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I was trying to answer that a little bit with my previous answer. I would go with, it's, in my personal experience, I have also been very fortunate, to, I didn't have a linear experience. I didn't go to college right out of high school. I did a bunch of other stupid stuff and got it all out of my system, and then I came back. But one of the things I learned in I was a server at a microbrewery for a while, and I learned a lot of soft skills. And I think that talking to people, being interested in what they were doing, being willing to learn what they were doing, kind of helped get me some of the my foot in the door in a lot of unpaid internships and stuff. And again, I'm talking about it now. I've also been able to have the opportunity in my work now to go with my boss to see members of Congress, and I really truly believe that if you can see it, you can be it. And I mean, I was with a freshman member who is a Latina, and I got to tell you, it was powerful to see her up there doing her work for her community and being like, other Latinas in the next generation can see that and can be it. And I think that that's something we would definitely want to bring into the tech space, and amplifying some of the awesome ladies that we have here.
So we are lucky that we're in DC because we were just talking about like the competition for events. So thank you all for being here. And so there are so many free events that provide free training or professional development topics about personal brand, just so many. I could go on forever. So just take advantage of those if you're, so the company I work for, I'm lucky that they're providing coaching, but it's usually not the case. And so it's a nonprofit, and so we work for the federal government who also has limited resources for all that stuff. So I try to take advantage of all the free stuff that DC has to offer, so definitely take advantage.
That is awesome advice. And so, Decri, from your perspective at Mass Talent HR, you must get a lot of different angles of this pursuit for growth, of the obstacles and the opportunities and what works and what doesn't. What is a piece of advice that you give to women that you're working with that could resonate for the people in the room?
Absolutely. So I'll do one that's like kind of silly, but like for real, and then a more in-depth one. But like, if you do not have a picture on your LinkedIn profile, girl, get one. Like, I will take one of you after this. As a recruiter, like, right away, no, nah, you don't care enough to put a picture. I don't know. Unless your like resume is like the most amazing resume I've ever seen, 99% of the time recruiters are going to pass you right over. And I think that's one thing that like we don't think about. I certainly didn't until I stepped into this role. There are recruiters every single day who are just perusing LinkedIn, looking for people who might be good for this position. And if you can take the steps like putting your picture, maybe showing that you're open to new opportunities, expanding on that, there's a little option where you can say like, I'm looking to transition to tech or whatever it is that you want to look for next. So that's a very simple one, but I think a big one that some people miss. Most millennials don't, as you mentioned, right? Most of us got that on lock, but it just depends. And then the other, I think, is 90% of getting to the next place you want to be is showing up. So many times, I mean, I'm an extrovert, but I get extrovert exhaustion. Sometimes I just want to sit on the couch with my dog, watch some Netflix, right? Sometimes that's just what you want to do. But sometimes you have to pep talk yourself into saying, no, I need to show up at an event like this. So you already got like, a gold star for that. But at similar ones to say, you know what, I'm just going to go and I'm going to talk to 5 people I don't know. I'm going to exchange cards. And you never know. That is how you could get to the next stop in your dream. And that's how you can meet people who are recruiters, who might just have some advice for you. Jessica and I were saying we're lucky that, our first coffees were with Latinas, right? We're with Brenda. Like, that's how you meet Brendas of the world, is showing up.
Thank you so much. One thing that I think like an hilo conductor, as they say in Spanish, I have my bilingual brain on because of our audience. One common thread between everything that everybody has said is how paths are not linear. So you graduate from college expecting to get a job, to get promoted, to maybe get a raise at another job, and so on and so forth. And Sonia, I know that you mentioned your transition from software engineer to policy was anything but linear. Can you share some moments in your career where you made a pivot and how that pivot taught you something or helped you grow? And how, if there's a lesson in that for all of us here.
Yeah, thank you. So I went to the Peruvian National Engineering School, and basically I was hesitating between like studying psychology or like chemistry or computer science, that's what we call it here. So when I talked to my parents, basically they said, well, how about if you go to engineering school first and then you can do psychology after? So once you start like finding a job. Sure, I never went back. And I started working as a software engineer. So like as a Peruvian, I developed my initial career in Peru. And when I started like just doing the technical job, I felt that I was missing something. I wanted to understand how businesses work. And while I was working, I went to do an MBA part-time. And I kind of like basically I said, I'm gonna ask if my job wants to pay part of this. So long story short, they did it, and that's when I realized no one is gonna offer you unless you ask. And if you don't have anything to lose, go for it. So just like worst case scenario, you change something or you just like blend into something. So that's when I started changing from the software engineer, from the developing, from coding to doing more like consulting, business processes, strategic development. But being a Peruvian, my parents told me and they said, you eat what you study. I was like the first generation to go to school, to like engineering school or to college. So that kind of like stayed in my brain forever. And I said, I have to continue doing something. And having grown in Peru, I wanted to use my career for development. And that's when I went to microfinance. Basically, I started working in microfinance and I said, well, maybe I can use the technical skills and what I learned in business school to do financial services. And microfinance at that time was like, what's that? I mean, like microloans, this is not gonna work. So I got into that, and that's when I kicked off, like the sub-regional or regional career. And I started working in countries like Guatemala, like Colombia, Venezuela, Bolivia, and I loved it. And that was the moment when I said, this is what I want to do. I want to use my technical skills to work in development. And again, there wasn't an easy way to do that in Peru. I wanted to work in other countries. I wanted to work in Africa, even though at that time I had no clue what Africa was at that time, because it was just like what I studied in school. So basically, fast forward, I kind of like opened my books, I went through the TOEFL, the GRE, and I said the only way for me, again, based on my parents' advice, was like, is to go to school. I can go to the US or I can go to Europe, and the only way for me to do it is through a scholarship. So I applied, I studied, I did my TOEFL, my GRE. I came to the US and I came to went to Syracuse to do a career in international development and an MPA because I didn't want to do a business administration. I wanted to work in public administration. So I was there 2 years, and basically I was full scholarship, everything paid. And even during the first semester in Syracuse, if you know Syracuse, it was like cold. For a Peruvian going straight from Lima to Syracuse, it was just like, what's this? It was like cold, it was dark at 3 p.m. It was like the windows were small, but I really enjoyed it. But after the first semester, I looked for the next step. I applied to like an internship at the UN in Switzerland, and I asked again. I asked in the school, and they told me no. You are with a scholarship. You are trying to like do a semester or 2 semesters in Geneva while you do an internship. The first answer was no, and then I asked again, and they told me, well, we will make an exception. So basically, I did part of my graduate school in Syracuse, and then I had an experience in Geneva when I started working at the UN. That again was kind of like a mix between development, technical work, and that's when I picked French, and I said, this is my opportunity. I'm in Geneva, I speak Spanish, so it's gonna be easier for me to speak French. So that's when I started doing like international development work, and then again, I applied in DC for a career, not knowing if I had to go back to Peru. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't have a clue on what I could find. So, and I started working in Africa and Asia, and that's when I said, like, I will try to have my own business. Fortunately, my husband is a lawyer, and I said, well, I will have the support on the legal side, I will do the technical side. I had a business, it was good, it was interesting, but it was kind of like having your own baby. For the ones who have had a business, you feel so passionate that you end up working till like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I loved it. And then I started working at the UN, and I said, yeah, I like it. I really like it, but I was missing the private sector. I was missing the pace. just to say all this story without wanting to boring you, it's like the main lesson that I learned is like you have to push for it. It's like, and if you don't have anything to lose, go for it.
I think something that you said too at the beginning really struck a chord with me, and that's that you were interested in learning how business worked, and that's what first sparked it. And so that's something I just kind of want to add to this is that whatever you're interested in, don't just push it off as something that like, oh, that's a hobby or that's something that I could check out later. Because for me, I did that when I was a tech policy lawyer. To be honest with you guys, I really didn't like it that much. I was bored. And I mean that's just honesty, and that's why I'm no longer doing it. But I'd always been interested in media and media relations. It was something I studied in college, and I wanted to learn more about digital movements, and that's something that I would kind of just try to do on the side for the nonprofits I was working for. Be like, oh, I'll help the communications team do that. And I didn't realize until someone pointed out to me, a good friend of mine, she said, this is what you're good at. Why don't you just do that? And it wasn't until I let myself be interested, more than interested, I let that kind of drive me. And I think that's really a key part of a lot of our stories is saying it's more than an interest, it's my passion, and it's where I should go.
Thank you guys, I love that. Are we good on time? Can I keep asking questions? Or should we open for one more? Okay, great. All right, guys, so I've been hogging their time, and we'd love to take questions from you. So I can walk around with a microphone unless there. Okay. Anybody in the audience that would like to ask a question?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sorabel. I work for the government, and my question is, especially for Sonia, I'm also a Syracuse alum, MPA. How do you make a move? Like, how do you transition from government to tech if you don't have a software engineering degree, if you don't have a technology background? How can you sell your expertise to tech companies?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Can you hear me? So thank you so much. That's a great question. I could say, I will take on your words. It's like if you're passionate about it, I think there is not just one recipe. It's just trying to identify the type of sector you would like to work. There are so many things that technology intersects at. Because you can use technology on the techie side. You can use technology for politics, you can use technology for marketing, you can use technology for social capital, social impact. I would just say try to find that niche that you would like to, try to find the companies that you would like to work at. And especially, I think private sector is trying to look for people who have experience at the government level. And that's not an easy way to find people. Why? Because private sector, I think, needs the public sector at the end of the day. Whatever we would like to do, if it reaches scale or if it has an impact, it needs the support of the public sector. So just to say that, I wouldn't say that it will be difficult to transition as long as you find a niche sector and the skills that will take you to. And also what's the added value that you bring from the public sector. Regulatory knowledge, like cybersecurity knowledge, like knowing the regulation, knowing how government works, know the intrinsics of the movements in the government.
So just to add to that, a lot of corporations are also hiring people that don't have the software engineering degrees, some that don't even have just any bachelor's degrees. So just because the need is just so high, I mean, I was reading a report right now that we need to double cybersecurity professionals in the workforce. And so at that, with that rate, with that gap, the rate that people are graduating, it's just not going to work. And so they need to look and get creative about how they recruit people and actually put people in these jobs. And so you can get certifications. There's lots of things online that you can learn how to code, if data analytics is a thing that you want to do. I mean, I learned how to use how to do SQL, like travel, SQLZoo.com. So that's just one, and that's how you can learn how to code for data analytics. There's just so many things out there online. If you get certified and add that along with your degree and your experience, you could potentially transition. The need is just so high.
I mean, I'll just add that the reason that we're here too is to, again, connect and uplift each other. So I mean, if there is a specific need or a specific company that you might be looking for, I mean, this is, there's going to be more than likely somebody who knows somebody or somebody who has worked at this specific place before. So it's just a matter of, reaching out and asking, and we want to be here, I think, as a resource for that.
I'm changing careers. My background, my undergrad's in business, and I'm doing a master's in data science. And my question would be to expand on the other person's question. How can I market myself? Like, how can you market yourself? Like, if you're going from one industry to another, and what would be the best way to do it? And,
So I'll start by just saying, I believe in the power of storytelling. I think that is the very best way that you can market yourself. As a business owner, that's something I have to do every day to get clients and to show the value. But to be able to say, this is my expertise. So that's the other thing. Don't be afraid to say that you're an expert. Because if you're an expert, you're an expert. The only person who can decide that is you. And stand firm in that and come up with, your elevator pitch, but also your long elevator pitch. If somebody's going to be interested and let you keep going, what are you going to say next? And so once you decide what those points are and what your expertise is, then just tell your story and however you think it resonates with the other person.
I just would like to add, if you see yourself as what is your added value to a company? So there are nowadays 100 people applying for the same job. But what's your story? What do you bring to the table? And I think the only thing that we need is just one opportunity. Once we are in, that's it. It's up to us. But for people to see you, at least you have to show to catch their attention with a nice story that's yours, that's your story. And I all the time feel like we need to feel comfortable in our own shoes. And if we don't like it, if it's annoying you, throw those shoes and buy new ones.
Are there any more questions?
Okay, we have two more, and that's
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Tatiana Corred. I'm from the New York City chapter board. And everybody from the New York chapter says hello to Angela, Diana, and Alexandra. They were very excited for you, and we're very happy to be able to be here with you. And, I'm just trying to put it all together because there's some things that you mentioned here today, but I think we have to look at the macro, right? And you said, we're not Silicon Valley and, we're not where the tech hubs are. But that's okay. I think that's a strength. You have something very unique, which is that you're in a place where business, tech, law, and policy come together. So my question is, and, we're seeing women primarily and African Americans and Latinas increasing in terms of entrepreneurship. We are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, and all of you will think about that in your careers. I know some of you right now may be starting off, but that's okay. later on you're gonna be like, I wanna be me Inc., right? So the question is, looking at a macro level and using your strengths, what are some unique opportunities for us, Latinos in tech, here in DC?
This is the perfect question for me because that's literally what I did. I like being in tech policy, working at the intersection of tech policy and social justice, law, policy, all of that. I decided one day, you know what? None of these social justice organizations or nonprofits are working in the right kinds of way in their communication strategies. They really need help to reach the markets that the private industry marketers are reaching, or even honestly in this day and age, our opposition. Right, if you're a social justice organization, the people you're working against, like a lot of times they have more money, better strategies, all of that. And so I think that this town is so primed for entrepreneurs, particularly tech entrepreneurs, particularly Latina tech entrepreneurs. Yeah, that deserves many booths. There are so many people who are like surprised. They're like, oh my God, you have a tech company, a tech startup? Oh my God, in DC? I'm like, yeah, we exist, okay? There are a lot of us, but not enough, not nearly enough. So, based on, building off of what I said earlier, like trust that your interest is your passion and take the leap. There are a lot of resources, there are a lot of people around who are willing to help, willing to coach, willing to give advice. But don't be afraid of that. And don't be afraid to just like write a business plan. Maybe you're not ready to take the leap, which is totally fine. It took me 5 years. But to really take the steps and to invest in the process, and invest in your dream.
Thank you. Just wanted to add, it's like keep developing. I'm like, DC is a great place if you want to work on international development. This is the place where you can find, this is the place I think that can open you the doors to the places where you would like to go. Africa, Asia, Latin America, and you can even like, you cherry pick. You want this organization, you want the other organization, and also try. And the other thing that I could add is just like invest in yourselves. It's interesting that we're talking in English, but it would be great the next time just to have this panel in Spanish. Or the next time to have a panel in either like to push our language skills, to have it in Portuguese or in French. Because we can apply for a job, but there are many people that have like speak 5, 4, 6 languages. So it's not just like our development on the technical skills, or in the professional skills. There are many people, this is a competition. There are many people who are like getting ready to the next steps on the language side as well. Because if you want to work in other countries, you need to bring that to the table. And there are many organizations that allow you to learn a language while you're working. So it's like try to find the opportunities. And again, I think this is a great place for international development, for like venture capital, this is an entrepreneurial niche, DC, San Francisco, and also perhaps the links that DC has to New York and to San Francisco as well. So if you wanna like try to find an opportunity in other places, find a seat here.
Alright, so not just only are there opportunities for entrepreneurship, so we're right in DC, we're surrounded by so many government buildings. And so, do we have any problems with the government? Like, in terms of the way that they're operating? Not the government, like how they're operating. Some organizational person on how they're actually changing, like how they actually, what technology. So IRS, when they're doing taxes, what system are they using? They're actually using a really, really old system. And there's a handful of people that can code in that language. So it's critical that they actually. So it's just one example. But there's just so many. Technology problems with how the government is operating, and so I'm in that space, and so, but I mean, I'm just one in that space, and I'm like very few Latinas where I work, and there's so many people in DC working with the government on giving them advice on how to improve technology, so there's just so many opportunities in the federal workplace.
I'll echo that. hashtag make all government files machine readable. Just want to throw that out there. That'd be very helpful. No, yeah, and I think that, you know, as you said, just the proximity. I think that the proximity close to being at the nexus of everything is going to be really exciting, but I think pretty big responsibility because a lot of people around here, sometimes it's hard to get out of the DC bubble. And when you are the face of, you know, Latinas in tech, what does that mean? You know, sometimes a lot of Capitol Hill, while it's getting better, and actually, you know, all this goes for all federal agencies, they are getting better in their diversity numbers, still quite low, and, you know, in terms of members and in terms of staff. And so I think that, you know, it's hard. Nobody wants to be the spokesperson for their community all the time. Although I'm sure that, you know, that's happened to many of us here. But I think that, you know, coming in, being, you know, from Utah, so like happy warrior, like way too happy to be on the East Coast. But I think having that perspective and having that enthusiasm and energy here, that we can, knowing that we can all make change and affect change, and also personal growth, and you know, because we are going to be the next, the leaders here in the next generation.
We have one last question.
Hi, my name is Maria, and I'm currently a software engineer. I am a recent grad, and I'm still planning my career. So I would like to get some advice from you, because I'm still debating if I can go for a master's in computer science, like go all technical, or go for a master's like in an MBA. Because in the future, I would like to become a leader in tech. I don't know what's gonna help me the most, or do you have any recommendations?
Just saying that out loud. You're going to be a leader in tech. Like that's half the battle right there. Like I'm not joking. Like just having that drive, you're going to make it happen, regardless of what path you take. If that's your end goal, you can have a network here to help you get there.
So I'm going to say it depends. So if you feel that the MBA will help you, like if you don't have very many business skills, those are critical to be, so it's good to be well-rounded. So a lot of people mention soft skills, so make sure you have soft skills. If you have soft skills and an engineering background, you don't even need a master's, so so I don't have one. Everybody always assumes I have one, and you know, I've heard comments like, wow, you're in that position and in that role without a master's. But everybody in DC has a master's, so I get why you want one, because it is good to compete. I'm actually just started my master's, but I'm getting an MBA because I have technical. And so that's why I say it just depends. If you feel that the business side will make you more well-rounded, then go that route. But if you want to become a very technical expert in software engineering, then go that route. But maybe, get some experience under your belt and then decide 1 year, 2 years. There's nothing wrong with taking a break. I actually recommend it. I think you can learn what it is that you want to do. And maybe you already have a software engineer. Maybe you go into cybersecurity for your master's because that'll change your career. That's what you're interested in once you get that experience.
Yeah, I mean, sorry guys. Putting on my must talent HR hat, when we're executive coaching with people who are young in their careers, when they're talking about should I do an MBA, I don't know. We usually say MBAs are for practitioners. So you have to be a practitioner really to be able to utilize your MBA typically. So I think that's wonderful advice. There's nothing wrong with a break. It's really encouraged so that you can figure out what your interests and what your passions are. Not to toot my horn too much, but and then you can really approach your MBA or whatever you decide to get your master's in and kind of specialize that way based on the experience that you've already gotten.
Just briefly, I could say it depends on what you want. I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old boy. And there's many times in which I see myself, what will I tell my daughter? What will I tell Alma when she asks, Mommy, what should I do? I don't have a clue. I only want you to be happy, to follow your dreams. I will just be able to give you different scenarios. In my experience, I think if you pick this may happen. But if you have the opportunity while you're young, go and get experience, travel, get different perspective. Before going a master's, depends on the master's, I've realized that if you go too soon to a master, you lack the experience of the world, and sometimes you will see yourself, you will compare yourself to your classmates that have more experience. So perhaps it's like depending on what you want, but get that experience before and after, like having like 1 year or 2 years working in a place, you will say, oh, this is how it feels working in a company, and now I want this on the technical track or more on the business side.
So I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you to our wonderful speakers. I know I feel inspired, and I'm just a Latina, but I'm not a Latina in tech, so I can only imagine how you guys feel. And thank you all for coming. Thank you so much again from the Wendy Martinez Legacy Project for involving us in this. It was a great honor to kick this off and to help DC become an inclusive city where women and Latinas are in leadership positions and helping each other succeed. So thanks so much again to everybody, and I'm going to hand the microphone back to you.
Thank you so much, everyone, again. Please go right now, take your phone out, go to Facebook. Good, everyone, I will give you 15 seconds to do this. Go right now, look for the group, because we will be posting everything there. So I hope to see you there. I hope to see you in some other events, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will take one selfie, okay?
And one more thing, sorry. Please also make sure you become a member of Latinas in Tech. So to do that too, go to latinasintech.org, create an account, and that way you will get emails letting you know where is the next event. And you can also join us in any of our other 10 chapters. So now we can take our selfie. It's tradition. My co-founder will literally kill me if I don't take this selfie. I say it every time, she hates it, but it's true. If you don't see me, you know what I'm doing. All right, so typically we have it before the second half of the networking. Do take advantage of the networking. That's one of the most important things. It's always 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after each one of our meetups. And there is where you meet the most amazing people. You will meet your next boss. You will meet your next direct report. Your brand new next project. It comes also from here. And I've heard so many stories. So take advantage of this network that just was born here today. So see you at the stairs. Spread selfie.